Tonight on Mac to the Future Go. It's a virtual dub this year, currently scheduled for June 22nd. Will the UK switch to Apple and Google's way of thinking for COVID-19 contact tracing apps? And a new 13-inch MacBook Pro is out. What will users choose between that and the new MacBook Air? All of that tonight and more on the Mac to the Future Go Livecast. Go. Yeah, we're going to go. Hello and everyone. Hello and hello to everyone out there. I am Guy Searle, one of your humble hosts for the Mac to the Future Livecast. Go! And I am joined this week, unfortunately, by just one person. Warren couldn't make it tonight, but Dave's here. Hello, Dave.
I am here. How's it going?
It's a lovely evening, don't you know?
It is. We had a great week last week with Renee Ritchie. I was so excited to have him on the show, and
I commented.
We did. We had a lot of fun. He's a good guy.
And that's in the In Touch with iOS podcast, which you can find. You usually get that out Friday on Fridays.
I try to release on Friday. We record on Thursday nights. Yep.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm kind of getting the feeling that this is going to be a relatively short show. So I guess we should just, hey Frank, we should just jump right into it. Now, you know about the T2 security chip that you've got in most Macs these days. If people lose their passwords and or ways to log into their machines, that T2 chip will basically make their machine little more than scrap metal. Is there anything that people can do other than don't forget your freaking passwords to get around that?
I don't think so.
That's kind of what it's for.
I mean, you can go in and there is ways of getting into the T2 chip and making the changes to it. But I'm glad Apple's doing this because anybody could steal a Mac and make it their own, and it kind of works in the same manner that it does on PCs, especially in the enterprise. How they protect those devices from being compromised.
Misuse.
TPM it's called.
Well, I know that for a while there, and this seemed to be like almost a weekly thing. You would have some group of idiots that would drive a car into an Apple store, run through the store, grab as many phones and laptops that they could, and then leave. I mean, it got so bad that Apple actually, for the display models that they have on the floor, the only thing those computers are good for is to be display models. You can't really use them for much of anything else. They time out. The T2 chip, which is activated, I think, at any time that the computer goes online, basically rendering the entire thing useless. So, other than what they may get in the way of parts from these computers, it makes absolutely no sense to steal a computer off of the floor of an Apple store.
Nope. I mean, it works in the enterprise now. The way they use DEP, the device enrollment program. If it's enrolled to that device is enrolled specifically to that company, there is absolutely no way you're going to be able to use that device. It's locked down. If you try to erase it or reformat it, not going to happen. It has to be on
screwed.
That particular that company's network. It has to be connected to that company. So that's exactly where the concept of the T2 chip has come in as well. It's just to keep your device secure. I'm all for it. I mean, I think computers were too easy to just do.
People would steal it, wipe the drives,
Right.
Put a fresh install of the OS and then sell it as their own.
Right.
And Apple made it so that you could, what's that called? Where you lock the drive down in firmware. You had like a firmware password.
Yeah, you could put a firmware password in when you boot it up too. So yeah, it's
and that also, if you forget that password, it's a dead computer. There's really nothing that you
pretty
can do
much
with it.
is. Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, you gotta be careful with your password. To be honest.
Yeah,
I mean,
and
it's the same thing when you do file encryption. I mean, when you enable File Vault, you do that because you don't want anybody to get to the data. I mean, if the machine gets stolen, they can't touch that.
Sorry, hope that doesn't give me a copyright strike. I think the big, and we're going to get off this in just a second. The big difference is the way it's implemented between Macs and PCs. Apple has the advantage here because it's a single company that makes all of these computers, versus on the PC side where you've got everyone and Bob's Fish Market and computer repair service is making computers on the Windows side. Okay. Next quick take. Is it time, Dave, for Apple to kind of up their game with storage, setting higher low-end density and doing away with Fusion drives? I mean, I've got a Fusion drive in this 27-inch iMac, and it's the biggest bottleneck for this machine. This is a screaming machine. It's a dual quad 4.2 gigahertz i7. I've got 48 gigs of RAM in it. I mean, this thing should just eat through anything I do. And every once in a while, all of a sudden the computer will just go, as it's trying to access some bit of the Fusion drive that it hasn't seen in a while.
Yeah, I don't understand Apple's thoughts. I mean, we'll talk about the MacBook Pro in a minute. They're going across the line and made the changes, but why aren't they doing this with the iMacs? I mean, people are asking all the time, should I go with a solid state drive? Absolutely. If you could spend that, I would spend the extra money. Unfortunately, Apple, you're paying a premium for doing that. I mean, they just don't. And
they've made it impossible. Yeah, they've made it like I can't go easily into this iMac and take out that Fusion drive and get myself a 2 to 4 terabyte SSD and put it in there in its place.
It can be done. You got to ship it to WWDC. They'll do it for you.
Yeah. It's pricey, and you're without that computer for a while. Now, if I lived near Chicago, I'd probably just drive it over and have them do it right there in the factory. Yeah, anyone who lives near Chicago, you should go and check out. It's in Woodstock, Illinois. OWC, and they're not a sponsor here, but OWC has an amazing facility out there. And
I don't know if I don't think you can just readily walk in there without you ordering something and then they have it ready for you to pick up. I mean, but
yeah.
You could check the big windmill outside there.
Yeah.
And,
they generate all their own power. Actually, they sell power back to the grid. They have a recycling program. They take like all of the paper and metal and plastic and everything that comes in, and it all gets broken down and recycled. Even their parking lot, if they need to change cables or do something underneath the parking lot, the old way of doing things, you bring in a digger and you tear up the entire parking lot, and you do whatever it is you got to do, and then you repave and you do this. They've got these cool shaped bricks all throughout their parking lot. And if they need to make a change, they just pull the bricks up, do whatever it is they need to do, put the bricks back. It's an amazing facility. And I don't just say that because they have sponsored stuff of mine in the past, but they are. It's such a good company. So if you're a Mac user,
he's a great guy.
He is. I almost said an old dad joke, but I'm not going to. Yeah, I
got to meet him at CES. It was great to talk to him for about 15 or 20 minutes. Dave Hamilton was with me when we talked to him, so it was great.
I'm sorry, Dave who?
Yeah. Dave.
Who? Hamilton? No, don't know.
Some guy.
All right, getting on to the main stories. The first one, of course, WWDC for 2020 has been announced. So be there. They're holding their developer conference in the middle of a pandemic, but making it virtual. This is all new territory. So, Dave, I wonder what they're going to do to make it exciting. Now, they've just released a bunch of iOS devices, the iPhone SE and the iPad Pro, as well as that incredible Magic Keyboard for the iPad Pro. And, of course, the MacBook Pro and the MacBook Air have just recently been released. I know. I'm so jealous. I keep looking for 2018s, dude. Can't find them. They're like gold. And the ones that you can find are so close to the price of the 2020s that it doesn't make any sense to get them.
Yeah. Wu-Tang had something today, but they weren't 12s. They were 11-inch ones.
Well, I want the 12. I'll go.
That's what I said. Yeah, they're 11s.
I'll go smaller on my phone. The iPhone SE, the new one. But when it comes to the iPad, I need the bigger screen. Yeah. Anyway, my
question about WWDC is where is it going to be free for people? Are we still going to have to pay to be able to attend all the virtual events? I don't know how they're going to do that. How are they going to do that? Only reason I mention that is because Jamf, if everybody's worth it, you're familiar with Jamf. Jamf is an Apple managed software for managing devices for enterprise and small business. I've attended their user conference for years, and it has a price to it, and you had to fly up to Minneapolis, and you spent a few days up there. Well, they were going to have it in San Diego this year, first time they're going to leave Minneapolis, and they decide right away they're going to go to a virtual only event. It's free.
Well, at this point, what choice does anybody have?
Oh, yeah, you can't do it. It's just not worth it this year at all with these conferences. And who knows where? When we get to the end of this year, where's CES going to be? Is it going to happen? You don't know.
Well, you've got something like 43 of the states are starting a slow rollback to opening up. The problem is we won't really know for the next 2 or 3 months whether that was a good choice or whether it was a mistake.
Right.
And if it was a mistake and infection rates go through the roof and hospitals start to get overwhelmed, well, we're going to be right back in the same situation that we're in right now. So, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But as far as, go ahead.
No, so there is no detail on it other than they're going to have special events. They'll be streamed online. They're going to they are having a Swift playground for folks whether they can sign up and they can win fabulous prizes.
Fabulous.
So that's kind of neat. But beyond that, there isn't any mention of is it free? I have a registered developer account, and I can sign up for things, but I don't know if.
Well, do you think that they're going to open it up for developers for everything, or you think it's going to be, okay, well, you're a developer, so you get to see this stuff, but if you want to see more stuff, you're going to have to pay?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. I think it'd be cool on Apple's part to open it up to the paid developers, at the very least.
Or at least developers who have actually developed something. There's a lot of paid developers out there. You have to be a registered developer just to get into the beta program, sort of.
Right. Well, yeah, there's a public beta too, but
yeah.
You
know what I mean.
I have a developer account. I have not, as of yet, developed an app. So
yeah. But that gives you early access to the betas.
Correct. Yeah, which is these days isn't a big deal anymore because they release the public betas
within a couple days
after.
Yeah.
But it's nice to have a developer account. You feel important.
Well, let me ask you something. What's left? What's left that hasn't been released as far as hardware goes? You could say HomePod, but who cares? You could talk about some of the their network security devices. Drawing a blank. The cameras and
home security cameras.
Yeah. What's that standard called? HomeKit. You could talk about HomeKit. You could talk about.
Then they will be because this is all developers. This event generally isn't a lot of hardware announcements. At very rare occasions have I recalled that Apple's ever announced any new hardware during this event. It's always been Mac OS is going to get released. The next version of iOS is going to get released. Watch OS.
But there's always something.
Software.
There's always something. I mean, they don't walk away from this without any hardware releases, especially since they stopped participating with the Macworld Expo, and of course, which is now dead and buried. Right. So the only things that I can think of that's left is something like, the iMacs haven't been updated in a little while. Mac Minis were just recently updated.
Yeah.
There's no laptops that aren't already updated, unless they come out with a new category. I know people were a little and actually we'll talk about that when we get to the laptops. Yep. So other than iMacs or possibly Mac Pros, or
sticking to software,
some kind of new category, or even, as much as I still don't think this is going to happen, the ARM would they make the announcement here at WWDC for 2020 that they're moving to ARM?
That's possible, only because developers have to start do their
start your engines, for
that processor. One thing I'm hoping for is, and I watched on Renee Ritchie had an interview with Justine about Final Cut Pro and the possibility of that application coming to the iPad. I'd be interested in seeing if that's already being developed as we speak. And if doesn't
the new version that they're letting everybody download for free for 30 days have some iPad-esque control features that have been baked in?
Some. I have Final Cut Pro, and I've been trying to learn it and trying to make the time for it. But yeah, they do have a 90-day free trials, just like they do with Logic Pro for audio.
I thought it was just 30 days. Okay, 90 days.
No, you get 90 days. Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Nice.
Yeah. So for anybody who's looking to try out Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro for free 90 days, go to Apple's website and download it. But they had a lot of discussion about it. I think it was more speculation than anything else, and I haven't seen a lot of chatter about it beyond that. I think it'd be pretty cool if they could pull it off. And the with the new iPads now, the 2020 iPads have plenty of horsepower, but they may not be enough yet. I mean, that's the thing. It all depends on how that app is going to actually function, in that environment. So
okay. Let's move on to the next topic. Is the UK NHS National Health Service throwing in this sterile towel? There's a lot of pushback against certain countries' COVID-19 contact tracing apps, mostly with privacy concerns. It seems that a lot of people aren't comfortable giving that much personal information to their governments, even if they might like them or who's in charge. And frankly, there's not that many people that feel that way right now in almost any country. The UK's National Health Service, or NHS, has gotten quite a bit of pushback from their users, and it seems they might be listening. The Financial Times reported that the NHS has asked their developers to possibly switch to Apple and Google's methodology and back end, considering that they need a high percentage of users to buy into this. This certainly makes sense, since neither Apple nor Google have to worry about tying services in between various countries. Even though the UK is not officially part of the EU anymore, it's important to have that cross-border gathering of information, as long as privacy is a major part of it. Now, especially in the UK, I know that there was some talk in France and Germany over what their plans were, but it seems like in the UK was where it kind of came to a sharp boil, and people were really, really unhappy that the NHS was planning on trying to gather this much information about their the people that use their services.
Yeah. I don't know with this topic. It's really tough with the privacy of this whole thing with COVID-19. I don't know what much else I can say on it other than, I think people have to just be careful what they share. A lot of scam artists out there trying to scam things. You know, you may be able to get even more info from Gaz on MyMac podcast if he could give you some good insight on what the UK is doing.
I know, and I keep saying I need to listen to this, but with not going to work or not driving to work, the number of podcasts that I listen to on a regular basis has gone down because I'm just here at the house, unfortunately. But Karl Madden,
do notice that.
Yeah, Karl Madden of the Mac and Forth podcast, which is another very, very good and funny, in a similar vein to the MyMac podcast, but with a much larger contingent of people that contribute. They had, I guess it was last week, they had a pretty in-depth kind of discussion on the NHS's plans. And from what I understand, it's supposed to be much more invasive than either Apple or Google was going to do. Now, the way I understand this is supposed to work is that there's no names, there's no addresses, there's no, you aren't identified as an individual as having or not having COVID-19. What it does, all of that information is kept within Apple and Google services or servers, and even they're not supposed to be able to access it. And if you identify yourself as having contracted COVID-19, all of the various phones that your phone came in contact with are pinged, and those people are kind of told someone that contracted COVID-19 came somewhere near you. But again, there's no personal information that's given out. Whereas with most of these governments, it was like, okay, you picked up COVID-19, and Bob over here and Susan over here and Nancy over here, they were too close, so we need to pull them in and have them tested. And, and it puts the onus on the government to go out and identify all these people. Whereas Apple and Google's way seems to be kind of the opposite thing. It's like they're basically saying, okay, well, you were pretty close and maybe you should go in and get tested. So it keeps people's personal information private. It keeps people's, who they are, what they are, where they were, all the rest of that also remains private. And I just think that that's a better way to go with this.
No, I agree. I think Apple and Google have been doing some interesting things with this.
And I never thought I would put Google in that conversation.
Yeah, it was very surprising to see these two companies got joined together like this. I mean, Apple's being very, very, very conscious of what they put on the devices and how the information is shared. And in fact, they should be putting a setting in your iPhone in the next iOS that you have control of turning off any of those settings when it comes to COVID-19.
Yeah,
data being transferred. So yeah, no, it's definitely a good thing. It's just hard to say that these governments would adopt what they do.
And the less that they know about us, I think everyone is more comfortable with that.
No, like Frank just said, the government knows everything about us. It's just there's nothing you can hide from that.
Well, yeah, but at the same time, why make it easy?
True.
All right. Okay. So last story for the evening. New 13-inch MacBook Pros announced with Magic keyboard. Magic. 10th generation Intel processors, up to 32 gigs of RAM, 4 terabyte SSD, and more. Why don't you go ahead and take this one, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, if this is exciting, that means Apple said sayonara to the butterfly keyboard. A lot of people had been very unhappy with that. I'm very unhappy because I have my MacBook Pro right here that I was dumb enough to buy in June of last year, and then a month later the 16-inch came out. So lucky me, but hey, it's still, what,
it happens.
Honestly, I don't mind the butterfly keyboard. It isn't bothering me at all. I mean, I've been using it and it's been fine.
Well, I picked up Warren's MacBook Air when his 2018 when he bought his 2020.
And that's got the
butterfly keyboard, and that it takes some getting used to. I won't say I hate it, but it just doesn't feel like what I expect a keyboard to feel like. But I'll get used to it, and since I'm going to have it for a long time, it would behoove me to do so.
Right. I mean, you go look into the pricing, and they go from a 1.4 gigahertz quad core to up to a 2 gigahertz quad core, 512 storage on the top end. But you start maxing it out, you want to add that 2 terabyte drive you want. That's going to put it over $2,000 for a 13-inch MacBook Pro. But I'm glad to see that they finally listening to the customers, and people were just not happy with this keyboard, and it got better. At least the 2019 model is better than I had the 2017 model. That keyboard was horrible. There was always problems with it, and as far as travel, and I didn't think I like it as much. So at least Apple got smart with that. But nope, this is a good thing. And it's gonna be interesting to see where things go with. You got a MacBook Air, you got the MacBook Pro 13-inch. Where are they gonna go next? And I know we talked about the ARM processor. Is Apple going to do this? I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how things go. Intel is, a little shaken in their shoes a little bit because that's going to be a big chunk of the business that they aren't going to be getting anymore for.
Well, if Apple goes to ARM,
if Apple does it right, it's still all rumors. So, but
yeah,
been a lot of discussion about it. I mean, it's a nice little laptop.
I still don't think it's going to happen. I think that
I honestly be surprised. I agree with you. I
think the Mac Pro. I think the Mac Pro put the nail in the coffin for a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean that Mac Pro is is a beast of a machine. So,
and
I'd be very surprised.
I don't think that Apple would split the Mac line long term between Intel and ARM. It's just not Apple's way. You have computer companies that will go between Intel and AMD, but those are both x86 based processors. So, 6 of one, half dozen of another. I was kind of surprised that when Apple was on their, God, this chair's getting squeakier and squeakier. When Apple was on their buying kick, that they didn't buy AMD. They could have.
Yeah. Yeah, they opted against it. They probably wasn't a good business fit for them. Yeah, they bought Intel's modem business, so they thought that was a good.
How'd that turn out?
Yeah, no, I don't know. We don't know what they're doing stuff behind the scenes.
That's true. That's true.
But if you look at this, high end model. The top end model starts the base price is $1,799. You can upgrade it all the way to a 2.3 gigahertz i7. This is i5. I'll add you $200 to the price. You can get 32 gigs of RAM, which is good. Good to hear that they at least are giving that option. $400 to upgrade it to 32 gigs.
And you can't do it yourself.
Oh no, you have to do it at the time of purchase. It's soldered in. So what you get, it's a permanent thing. And then you got all the way up to 4 terabytes of solid state storage. $1,200 for a 4 terabyte.
Which is I'm sorry, that's
a lot of money.
Yeah, you can get 2 terabyte sticks for probably. I mean, I haven't priced it in a while, but at the most you're looking at $400, maybe. Maybe
on a 2 terabyte solid state, you're probably around $350, $400 probably.
Okay, and
they're charging $600 for that for 2 terabytes.
Yeah. And it's done at the time of manufacturing, so it's not like somebody had to go
soldered in too.
Oh, let me go ahead and pull this MacBook Pro off the shelf. Yeah. Oh, I got to take all these screws out. All right, I'm going to take out this 512 megabyte SSD and put in this 2 terabyte one and connect it all back up. No, it's all done. It's all done at the time of manufacturing.
But I'm telling you, I'm seeing Apple's not alone. I can see PC companies are going to start looking at this too. I'm afraid when they start doing that, especially in enterprise work where I work, we have to have that ability to be able to do that on the fly. Because if a computer fails, what do?
You have to replace the drive.
Or if they don't allow the drive to be replaced, then what? I had that situation when we had Surface Pros. I mean, we had to have stockpiles of machines on hand to do a reimage of a machine and swap it out. And they say, here's another piece of hardware. So you're spending all this extra money for having this stuff. So I'm hoping that the enterprise doesn't ever happen. Dell's been dabbling in it. They're thinking about it, but Apple, they've been solid with it. I can't see it being an issue. They've got big enterprise clients like IBM and SAP with 30, 40,000 Macs out there. So it must be doing okay. I mean, as far as support, the support on these machines are pretty fair. I don't see a lot of problems with having hardware issues. It's a rare.
Well, Apple's build quality has typically, and we're not saying all the time.
Yeah,
but typically have been way up there. No, they're not. And Butterfly keyboard is a perfect example. There were especially in the MacBook Airs, there were a lot of them that were failing.
Yeah.
And they had to extend the warranty period on a lot of those machines, simply because they were afraid that of probably like a class action suit against them for defective keyboards. And I think there actually was one that didn't really go anywhere because Apple extended the warranty on it. I guess that's about it. Really, that's all we have for tonight. Dave, if people wanted to get a hold of you and find out more about what makes David Ginsburg tick, what would they have to do?
Well, would love to have you go out to my podcast website, intouchwithios.com. We'll record another episode tomorrow. The co-host Warren Sklar is on the show, and we have a lot of fun. Like I said last week, Renee Ritchie was on the show. We had a lot of fun talking to him, and we just talk about Apple iOS, and anything related to those technologies. A lot of good chatter about that. So come on and take a listen, and you can also. I'm also president of a Suburban Chicago Apple Users, local Apple user group here. We actually have another event coming up on Saturday. It's been a lot of fun planning these events using the Zoom technology, and even being able to get it set up on YouTube. So a lot of fun doing that. And then if you want to see me on social media, good places on Twitter, DaveG65.
And if you would like to help support some of the things that I do, I have a couple of different ways you can do it. You can become a Patreon, patreon.com/MacParrot. You can buy me a coffee, coffee.com, ko-fi.com/MacParrot. Or there's also the PayPal option, paypal.me/MacParrot. Now, I do need to get some special things in there for people who are kind enough to donate. Some of the stuff I've been doing with Guy's Daily Drive, I think I may start kind of pushing over into for Patreons and other people along those lines. I appreciate any support that you can give me, but it's certainly not a requirement, and I will keep doing this whether you do or not. If you'd like to get a hold of me, guy@mymac.com. You can also reach me on the Twitters. I have 2 Twitter accounts. I have MacParrot and VertShark. Now, what else? I also do, of course, the MyMac.com podcast each and every week with Mr. Gazmaz and the aforementioned Guy's Daily Drive. I have 2 episodes that I recorded today that I need to download from Facebook and get out. And that's a point of contention with me right now as far as Facebook Live, but that's a subject for another day. Dave, I believe that is going to do it for tonight. I appreciate the fact that you were able to come on and say goodnight to everybody, and that I hope that you all are doing well, that you're staying safe, and we hope to see you next time right here in the Mac to the Future Livecast. Go.
Bye-bye, everybody. Stay safe.
Bye. Stay safe.
Thanks for listening and watching.